Welcome to Dynamics of Dialogue, your one-stop shop for peace and love on the airwaves, a safe space for people of color and our allies. Join us every week as we have real dialogue with people going through real life. Your dynamic, your dialogue. Come get some. Welcome to Dynamics of Dialogue. This is your host, Rebel Queen, and I'm here with Elle Lachey, and we are talking about a very hot topic today. Are you really monogamous? Are you really monogamous? Considering the headlines, there's been a lot going on in the headlines, right? We're talking about Cardi B and Offset. And first of all, I'm going to start off right here. I'm not here to drag nobody. That's not how I get down. I don't believe in that. But we're talking about Cardi B and Offset. And then also, for those of you who watch Married to Medicine, Dr. Simone and her husband Cecil. And also, Elle Lachey just reminded me of Shamari and Ronnie DeVoe. So in the context of the conversation, are you really monogamous? All of these instances we've seen, there be accusations of, in Cardi B's instance of infidelity, where Offset was setting up this threesome. In Dr. Simone's case, her husband Cecil had a friend. There's no indication that there was anything sexual going on, but nonetheless, there's definitely some emotional boundaries that were being crossed there, where her needs as a wife were definitely being ignored, not heard. And that was very challenging. And then on Real Housewives of Atlanta, Shamari DeVoe acknowledged that her and Ronnie had explored an open relationship. So there's definitely a lot of talk about these other people inside of relationships, and it kind of really begs the question, what's really happening? What are we doing? Your thoughts, Elle Lachey?
Well, and the people, going down the list of everybody you name, mm-hmm. These are just not monogamous people. And it's okay. It's okay. A lot of times we focus on marriage as being there's only one way to look at a union between people. And you can't control who you love. And our experience is based on relationships. The more relationships you form with people, you get to see more reflections of yourself in these communications. I feel like couples limit the way their partners can engage with other people within monogamous relationships. And it doesn't have to be that way. You can be in a monogamous relationship with someone and still allow them to be free and be themselves and show love. And it doesn't affect how they feel about you. However, you have people that enter into monogamous agreements because that's all they've been taught or they've been trained to believe that's goals. But they're not monogamous people. So now they're battling with themselves every day to be this person that they're really not set up to be.
So, that begs the question for me now. How do you know? I think that most of us in American society are raised to be monogamous, unless you're a part of a religion that believes otherwise. Mm-hmm. That's pretty much the norm in this country. So I think most of us believe that. So if you're not a monogamous person, how do you really know? What is a sign to you? How is that something? What does that look like?
Well, for me, I pay attention to patterns and not words. I pay attention to the kinds of engagements and interactions this person has with people of the opposite sex or even the same sex. Because it's not to say that, people aren't entering both heterosexual and homosexual relationships. So you can't just assume that men will act a certain way or women will act a certain way. It's people in relationships. Check the patterns. Do they have a pattern of being dishonest? When you ask direct questions.
So, like in the case with Offset and Cardi B. Now,
Offset is not a monogamous person.
Right, because now I'm saying, and again, and I'm not going to speak ill of him. You know, I don't know him direct. I mean, well, I've met him, but him and my son are friends, and they've welcomed him into the family, into their space as family. Mm-hmm. So I would never speak ill of him. I never. But it's kind of hard to watch him being dragged in that regard, because looking at this perspective, I'm thinking that very thing. Maybe he's just not a monogamous person, and I don't know how old he is. I think he's still younger than Amari. I don't know. But as a young person, he is probably, God, and I'm not trying to make excuses, but I'm just saying, how do you know, if you are a young person, how do you really know if this is not a question that you've ever really asked yourself? And not blaming Cardi B either, because he married her. He put a ring on her finger and said, "I'm gonna be your husband."
He married who he wanted.
Absolutely. So I mean, but didn't he have a pattern? Wasn't there some issues of cheating?
But this is not the first time Cardi B had to deal with rumors of cheating. She had to deal with it before the marriage, after. But with this particular situation, the leaked text messages dated back to I think she had just had Culture. Mm-hmm. Or she had just had Culture. That was back in like June or July.
So
yes, I'm pretty sure she's not trying to take the pipe. She's still healing her body. For me, and I'm not. This is not my relationship, but for me, just from the outside looking in, my issue with my husband would have occurred when the messages got leaked. Because if you know that this person is not monogamous, and you've had to deal with this cheating to an extent, you know that they're capable of doing it.
See, but my thing is this: at that point, did Cardi really acknowledge that he's not monogamous? Does he acknowledge that he's not monogamous?
That was literally going to be my next thing.
Does he acknowledge that?
He may have been, "I'm sorry, I want to do better," because that's what our young men. That's what our young men do. Because they have this ideal man that they're supposed to be, this monogamous man who's providing for his family, and keep in mind, they've never seen it in some situations. And we talk about, historically, this is how it should be. This is how it should be, but you understand that grandpa had a whole sad family up the block, but you want your son to be this grown monogamous man, or you want your daughter to grow up and be in this monogamous relationship, but you tolerated this whole side family, and your mother tolerated this whole side family, but you preach monogamy. We got secret families here and there. We don't know whose history is where, but we preach monogamy like that's a goal. So now you have younger people with this goal of monogamy. They're developing anxiety because they can't meet that goal due to whatever sexual trauma they've experienced, due to their inability to connect for whatever reason, their inability to express their feelings, and they don't know who they are.
I stick a pin in that sexual trauma. I think in that one thing alone, and again, this is all about exploration of this idea. Again, I'm not making excuses for anybody. I'm speaking from a point of understanding, self-discovery, exploration, and trying to create a space where everybody can explore and maybe just look at these situations from a different perspective. So when we know that, once we acknowledge that sexual trauma is really like bigger, way bigger than we acknowledge, than we realized previously than what it is, then we understand that hypersexuality also shows up as a part of sexual trauma.
So now you're shaming this person as a cheater when they're really non-monogamous, or they're really hypersexual. So now they're being stigmatized. Now they have the shame associated with being a cheater.
Yes.
Now it makes it more difficult to tell you the truth about
like Eric Benet, and like in the case of Eric Benet,
remember that. Yeah.
And I think, and now having met him, because he was at one of our regional conferences. Having met him, it was a big thing, a big nasty divorce. But at the end of the day, even if it was a lot of people say, I don't believe in sex addiction. I don't believe in this. But sex addiction is a real thing, and it comes from somewhere. Mm-hmm. It's not like people just make it up. It's not like it's just,
they're just cheaters, and they need to get control of themselves.
Yeah, granted, there are some people that cheat. And, and I'm not going to lie. I have been cheated on. I have been that person that has said, man, you just dirty and you just doing X, Y, and Z. But as I've come through, older folks and, always say, just keep on living. Mm-hmm. Just keep on living. And as the longer I live, the more I learn, and the more I learn about myself, I'm realizing, dag, it's not really that cut and dry.
Mm-hmm.
It's
It's
really
not.
and
It's
and
not.
it's even made me question my own self and question whether or not, as we've previously discussed, whether or not whether or not I'm truly monogamous, because you really helped me as a friend come to some understanding about my own anger in my own marriage, right? And I think a lot of that had to do with I chose.
Yeah,
I chose monogamy.
You chose to be with someone who was not meeting your needs, despite the fact that you knew they were not being met, and you held this person accountable for maintaining your needs because that was your partner, and you were monogamous. And it is completely unrealistic to hold one person accountable for all the things that we need as individuals.
I think that it depends on the individual. I think for some individuals, it may work. For some individuals, and I'll go to Dr. Simone. I'm a huge fan of Married Medicine. I love that show, and I love those women. They are amazing. Well, I'm gonna tell you, some of them can. But but Dr. Simone, one of the I was just watching, one of the things that she used to describe herself in in her sexual style was just basic. Some people see themselves as just really simplistic, and I really don't. I'm this, I'm that. It's simple, and they don't see themselves as complex. So their needs are not as complex. But then I'm complex as fuck. Mm-hmm. I am complex as fuck, and I realize, wow, I got a lot. Mm-hmm. I do. I have a lot. My needs can be a lot.
Well, let's talk a little bit about expecting people to meet your needs.
Hello.
Let's talk about that.
Hello.
Because when you hold accountable for somebody to fulfill something outside of yourself, you set yourself up to be disappointed.
Right.
When that need's not met.
Right.
So instead of me being upset at my partner because they don't want to give me a massage, because I've gotten accustomed to, okay, I'm going to be honest. I had somebody giving me great full body massage, it was part of my self-care. I was getting it twice a month. And this was somebody that, was a friend, happened to be a trained masseuse. So yes, he knew exactly what he was doing. He would tell me, hey, you need to stop slouching, because he could rub my lower back and tell I was tense. Or which way are you sitting? Because I can feel it here in your neck. These are things that your boyfriend can't tell you because he's not a trained masseuse. Mm-hmm. So am I supposed to be denied of my full body massage with happy ending from someone who knows what they're doing?
With happy
because
ending,
you don't want you don't want this man touching on me?
I'm just saying, wait, I just want to call special attention
happy
to
ending. I'm just saying.
It's,
this was a service that was being gifted to me.
Hello.
This was a service that was being gifted to me. And if you are listening, you know who you are. I'm highly appreciative of the things that you did for my soul, because I was, and my virtual assistant, she'll tell you, I was that much more productive when I was in my single zone and I was getting my needs met all the time. I was that much more productive. But nonetheless, I feel some level of guilt for even wanting that kind of treatment, just because of the nature of me being in a relationship now. Should I be experiencing guilt because I like full body massages?
But the reality is, how many of us really get that in a relationship? The last time I was with a man that gave me full body, that were good, that were, that were like a masseuse. Well, he studied sports massage in college. Was 9 years ago. Mm-hmm.
That's a service, but why are we holding our partners accountable for a service that you can pay somebody to do?
Right, because you know what? But
I need to go ahead and go to the massage parlor, right?
Yes,
maybe not for the happy ending, but I think it's the happy ending that makes a difference.
I'm just saying.
I think it's the happy ending.
It does, and
yeah, this was a service that was gifted to me by a professional. So who am I to be ungrateful and deny such a gift?
So, but some would say that's cheating. Some would say
it is, and on some level, if you're okay. So for me, let's define cheating. Of course, you have a definition. Go look it up. For me, it's operating in a manner outside of what was agreed on in the partnership.
What's agreed on?
Yeah.
So in other words, I think that a lot of us have this general idea of cheating, but I think I'm glad you said that, because I think it depends. It's different for
For me,
everybody.
if we agree on something and you breach that contract, I'll come at you like hell and high water because you cheated on me.
Right.
If we have an agreement that allows for you to be who you are, I need you to respect that agreement. If you can't respect that agreement, then you're not respecting our boundaries.
Right.
You don't have to be in this type of agreement with me.
Right.
In most situations, I prefer to be by myself. But if you come into a relationship and you tell someone, hey, I want to be with you, but you're not being honest about who you are, you're cheating. Right. You're cheating this person out of the opportunity to make an informed decision on whether or not they want to be with you.
So I wanna, because sometimes I kind of feel like it sounds like, okay, well, if somebody, I'm just playing devil's advocate, on the other side, what sounds like you're just being extra selfish, just being extra selfish. Well, say for example, how many times have we as women, just women in general conversation, said we've already acknowledged, I think in our conversation, lots of us have acknowledged that we're really not going to get what we want out of one man. And I think the general idea is that we just accept that we're not going to get what we want.
That's what it is.
But I think because we've had the conversations about the 5 men. You get what you need 5 to really make the one man that you want. Because if it's the man that you really love with all your heart, he's not going to be the man that's going to be your best friend, that likes to do all the things with you, or he's not going to be the best in bed. He's going to be a slob in the house. Or there's going to be some other area that is going to be a challenge. So there's always one area that you're always looking for, and women tend to meet those needs in friends. And this, again, to me, goes back to the issue that Dr. Simone had with her husband, Cecil. Cecil, and again, not throwing anybody under the bus, because lots of people have. I encountered similar problems in my marriage. But Dr. Simone's husband had a friend, and that started to cross the lines, boundaries for Dr. Simone, which I thought was it would have crossed some boundaries for me too. He had a friend that actually lives in the same city, and he invited her over for Christmas, and she packed a bag and stayed for 8 days. And for the wife, that was a big boundary violation. She felt like, you live in the same city. Why are you here in my house?
Right.
You don't need to be in my house, and you didn't need to pack a bag if you live in the same city. So she felt like her husband had crossed some emotional boundary. So I don't think it was necessarily that she had a problem with the friendship existing, but she had a problem with the boundary being crossed at the end of the day.
That comes down to being honest about what your expectations are. And if you can't fully communicate your needs to your partner, it's going to be extremely difficult to establish healthy boundaries in that kind of relationship.
Right.
Because you do have people that are looking for a reason to steamroll your ass, and they will run you because you allowed it to be open, but you haven't set your personal boundaries, so your ego is up for discussion.
Right.
Because you don't know where you stand in this relationship. So now this person shows up and brings a third party in. Now you're insecure. Now you're not feeling like your communication is the same. Now you're competing in your primary relationship.
So what about the experience, like you were sharing with me about something that you've been going through? You wanted to talk about that a little bit?
Well, one thing I did realize is I'm more comfortable in the rotation because I don't hold any one person accountable for the things I need. So I'm more comfortable talking to different people, not having expectations high, not I guess part of it goes down to my abandonment issues, and I expect people to leave. I don't have that attachment. So I kind of go at a situation like, you're free to do what you want, and you're free to not do what you want. And I don't place permanent expectations on people in my relationships because I know that people change, needs change. I realized I'm in a poly-style relationship with my child's father because of the distance. We're not close. We're about maybe 3,000 miles from each other. But when we spend time together, that's our time. And we probably see each other, just a few times few times a year, you know, but when we spend that time together, the quality of time spent is worth it.
Right.
The quality of time spent is worth it because we're focused on each other. We can't we can't have a relationship where we're physically with each other every day right now.
Right.
For whatever reason.
Right.
But we respect each other's space. We don't hold each other accountable for things that the other person can't do. You know, ever since we met each other, we've accepted each other for who we were. So then when I ended up getting pregnant, it wasn't an issue of, you know, problems. It was, okay, we're a team. What do we have to do to figure this out?
Right.
Even though we're not in a, you know, committed relationship, we're not together.
Right.
Pretty much, he does his thing, I do mine. He understands that I have relationships with other people. Obviously, he does too. But we respect our communication, and we respect our relationship. It doesn't always result in sex. You know, that's another thing I want people to stop believing about polyamory. It's not about the sex.
No, it's not.
If I have a rotation of 4 or 5 people, I'm not having sex with everybody.
Right.
They're meeting different needs.
Well,
Whether they're social, whether it's emotional, you know, whether, you know, it's just not necessary to have sex. A lot of people think open relationships, they think, oh, well, I can sleep with who I want now, and this woman is going to let me sleep with who I want. No, it's not about that at all. It's about open communication, being able to trust, being able to develop connections with other people that are healthy, not using them as a means to an end.
yes, correct.
You know, that's what
it's
love is about.
It's about way more than just couples. Polyamorous relationships are way more are open, trust, ethics, family, community are all focuses, are all centers of in a real polyamorous relationship. And I think, unfortunately, it gets a bad rep because the way I have observed it being practiced is that people are often really cheating and they're not being honest.
Yeah,
and there's all kinds of extra things going on.
Yeah.
And it's usually, you know, maybe a man maybe saying that he wants multiple women while denying the woman the opportunity. That's not There's equity in polyamory. You know, it's not about another person defining what you
You're
want.
not using people. It's about
It's not
developing
about
healthy
using
interactions for all parties involved.
Right, and also lots of people, you know, it's not about sex because lots of people are in polyamorous relationships that are asexual, that don't have sex at all.
Right.
At all.
Right.
You know,
They have
that have
connections.
issues because some people may have issues. Some people may want the comfort of a relationship but may have issues with having sex. Actually having sex. I've actually been asked to be in such a relationship with a person who could not actually have sex, but wanted the comfort of being in a relationship, but would allow me the opportunity to go and be with other people. And to be honest, that's the first. I was surprised that I actually considered it. And that was the first thing that made me consider, well, wow, maybe the fact that I even considered it surprised me, and it made me consider, well, maybe I'm not monogamous. And that's kind of what started this journey for me. I did not enter into that relationship, although it was a friend I cared about very, very deeply. But at the end of the day, it opened up my eyes to another side of life.
That's the key word, open.
It opened up my eyes.
As long as you can keep the word open and mean that shit, you'll have healthy relationships with people. We don't own people. The minute you get into, like with my relationship, you know, my relationship with my current partner, we started off as friends. We accepted each other for who we were. I knew what he was doing and he knew what I was doing. It got to a certain point where we cared about each other a little bit more. Then we ended up, you know, dating, and it was difficult putting a title on it because it was, whoa, hold up, we didn't have this conversation yet. You sure we together? There was a whole lot of that because of the title. It didn't change the nature of how we engaged with each other. It didn't change the fact that he was there for me and I was there for him. Once again, am I really going to fault you for who I knew you were day one? So now I put a title on what we're doing. Now there's expectations. Now there's boundaries. Now the relationship shifts.
Yeah.
And there were certain things that I cared about in the relationship that I didn't care about prior to the relationship. But now I care because he's my man.
Yeah.
He's mine.
And you know what, though? And I think that it's like a friendship, right? A friendship isn't really a friendship until that bitch is tested.
Yeah.
It's not until that shit gets tested that you know that it's a friendship. Until the first time that you and your friend have to go through something tight and you make it through that shit.
Yeah, that's when you know.
Oh, that's my dog
that's
now.
When you know. And a lot of times people go into relationships looking for this person, add husband here or add wife here, instead of focusing on that friendship.
You got to, because it's now, to me now, when you, let's talk about Shamari and Ronnie DeVoe. Now, to me, I got to tell you, there's something about her on her as she plays on the show. I'm just not a big fan of who she plays, how she is on the show, but I got mad respect for her for standing up. She stood up, boom. When they asked that question, you know, I love Real Housewives. I am a huge fan of Real Housewives, and Nene is my motherfucking girl. I love her, my favorite one. Now, Shamari stood up, feet planted in the ground, 2 hands up in the air, when they asked the question, who's been in an open relationship? She was the first one to admit it. She's willing to live her life out loud, and the fact that her and her husband gave themselves permission. She said that she was bi-curious, and she admitted that to his mama. That takes a big woman to admit that to a dude's mama.
Yeah, she looking at you like, you know.
Right. The whole time her mama
looking at you like, oh, yes, ma'am.
Right. And this is done and over with. And the mama looking at her like she crazy. But, you know, she talked about it. And the fact that she talked about it, and she was bi-curious, and he gave her that space. There's a lot of men, like some women going through right now. There's a lot of men who the women can't even have that conversation and say, well, I'm curious. I want to explore this place, because the man will be like, no, knowing full well that he got some
whole family going on.
Whole family getting pussy on the side regularly, his phone going off. But he can do what he wants to do, but he does not want her to explore herself.
It's one-sided open relationship.
It's one-sided open relationship.
Non-ethical, non-monogamy.
And that's the problem. It's not so much that's where I'm asking, are we really monogamous? Or are you really just holding on to your idea of what it should be? I just read on shout outs to Black with No Chaser. We were just having this conversation, and the same day, later on that day, I was reading on Black with No Chaser, somebody had posted about monogamy. And one dude said, oh yeah, I could be non-monogamous, that's fine. And then and he posed it as though the man should be able to go do whatever he wants. Another sister pops on there. Yeah, and the woman equity, right? The woman could go do what she wants too. Oh no, that's not the way the Bible says it.
Now all of a sudden we got authority on it.
Right.
You know, now all of a sudden we're quoting the book, the good book, and there's no balance. There's no equilibrium whatsoever in the relationship. The woman is sitting here at home knowing, because y'all not slick, so the woman is sitting at home knowing full well what the fuck you're out here doing, and she's having to deal with anxiety, and you're gaslighting her and doing all this extra shit, disrupting the house. Then you want to tell her she crazy. You want to tell her she crazy.
Meanwhile, it's okay for you to do whatever you want to do, but you just refuse to let her do what she want to do.
Because you know she would do it better than you.
And in my mind, the fact that Ronnie was man enough to say, you know what, boo? You want to go explore other women? Go ahead. And Shamari was the one to say, you know what? I was the one that that started the open relationship. And I was also the one that put it to an end. And they're still married. Mm-hmm. And their marriage is strong. Mm-hmm. They love each other. And to me, to be able to go through a situation like that, and to give each other that kind of space, and to come back from that.
Yeah, there's people that are currently married right now that burst out in tears at the thought of their person leaving them or having sex with another person. Yeah. I understand, the nature of the bond, and I understand the nature of honesty, but no one should have that much pull over you to where you can't get yourself together.
Yeah.
In the sense that they might be cheating on you. Now it disrupts your whole day. Now, because the issue with the cheating is not about the competition with the other people. It's the root.
It's about you. It's about you. It's just like how we explored earlier. For me, it was when I realized, I will never know, whether or not my husband was actually sleeping with this woman or not. But for me, it was about all this shit I'm fucking doing for your ass, and you mean to tell me you still got to run out and get somebody on the side?
Because it's not enough. Beyonce got cheated on. If you are Beyonce, what else can you do?
What the fuck?
What else can you do? She Beyonce. She speaks for herself.
You know?
And she still had to put out Lemonade.
The baddest women in the world.
Because are we really monogamous?
Are
we?
But again, I think it depends. So I think some people are. I think some people are.
Yeah, some people. I have a very close friend that always speaks about monogamy and how she doesn't want anybody else. Everybody's not like that. It's just the people who are, you need to go play with each other. Right. And the people who are not, let them play with each other. Stop coming up here trying to play with monogamous people when you're not.
But I think that particularly for us, like with me, that's the first thing I thought about when I heard about the Cardi B Offset situation. Because like I said, I've been knowing him indirectly, knowing some things going on. When you got a person with that much going on, right? You don't really see them settle. It's never the type of situation where you see them settle down with one person and it's just roses and peaches and it's hunky dory. That's not you. Show me an example of how that works that way.
Now, did you see the actual text messages?
Yeah, I did.
When I read them, they look very familiar to me.
Yeah,
they look like if you read the text, you could tell
very detached.
It was detached. Detached. The sex he was requesting was formal. It was business. It was, look, I'll fly y'all out, just get this shit done.
Right.
If you all look at it, if you go back and read, it was detached sex.
There was no sweet talk.
There was no communication. It was business. He was literally telling the one girl to make it happen.
Just make it happen.
Make it happen. Like he literally, and I've seen this type of stuff from men that I've dated, and I know that in their situations it came from detachment from sex, not being able to connect.
And now how we gonna ask now, and so now for me, again, I'm not an excuse. But now how we going to ask our men to heal? How we going to ask anybody? Because I'll tell you, I'm healing right now. How you going to ask somebody to heal and then not be willing to have conversation about and confront the shit that takes place in healing? Mm-hmm. Because in the process of healing, it's going to be some fucking, it's going to be some self-sabotage. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a whole... Healing is not a beautiful process. Healing looks like I'm going to fuck up, I'm going to fall down, I'm going to stab myself, I might end up in the hospital a couple of times, then I'm going to get up, and then I'm going to do right for a little while, I'm going to fuck up again. Mm-hmm. I'm going to fuck up again. All the while, I may or may not be in therapy. And the majority of us are not in therapy while we're doing this.
You're not going to therapy. You're treating your shit the same way you've been treating it. So if you were treating it with double the pussy, that's what you're going to request even when you marry.
That's what I'm saying. We can't stigmatize mental health and then ask somebody to heal and have a healthy relationship
and shame them. Like he's being shamed for his sexual behavior all up and down the internet right now. Like I'm really not cool with it. I'm not here for cheaters. Don't get me wrong. I'm not here for cheaters. So if he didn't set up an arrangement with his wife that allows for him to explore his sexuality in that manner, fuck him. But if they did, we probably wouldn't even be having this conversation.
Right, but
let's be clear. The reason it came out was because the mistress decided she wanted her little 15 minutes of fame.
She wanted her 15 minutes of fame, but also one of the reasons why we wanted to have this conversation is because other women, all of these men, we don't have the space for somebody. For what man has the space to be able to say, babe, you know what? I'm really not polyam. I'm really not monogamous. Can we still have a relationship?
Somebody gonna call me a pick me right now.
Right, they are.
Because I'm really at a loss of words for how we accept that these social problems in the African American community, we know that our young men are experiencing sexual trauma at a young age, at an alarming rate.
Our women too.
Being victims for men and women. We know that this hypersexuality exists, and then we label them cheaters for when they act out on things they never healed from.
But my thing is, and this, because here's my thing. If we know that this is happening to us, in crisis proportions. I was just corrected that it's 1 in 7 black women. So because we know the CDC says 1 in 5, and that's reported. So we know the number is higher. We know the number is higher. So if we know that this is happening to us, and if we know that those of us who have been through trauma got whole tendencies, and we know how to. If we're in a healing process and we're trying to get shit together, then why do we not think that this applies to somebody else? Why do we not think that this also applies to men? Why do we not think that the same hypersexual tendencies that we may carry also applies to them?
Well, the non-monogamous shaming is even worse when it comes to women. Because if you have a woman that's non-monogamous, she gets no respect.
She gets no respect.
Because she ends up, she's going around, quote unquote, sleeping around, pretty much acting out on her hypersexuality. She's the one that might end up pregnant. She's the one with the 3 baby daddies, and you're up here labeling her.
No. It's not even about her being pregnant. It's just about her being a whore.
No,
because
even
the women are supposed to be chaste.
Oh, well, the reason I mentioned the pregnancy was to add to the extra shame that comes with being hypersexual.
Being a whore, right.
Dealing with the consequences of your hypersexual behavior. So she should have kept her legs closed.
At what point are we going to stop talking about she should have kept her legs closed? At what point are we going to stop putting everybody to shame for being who they are? And at what point are we going to start saying, okay, well, there's a reason why this person is continuing to do this? And at what point are we going to say, okay, well, he cheated on you X amount of times.
Girl, leave him.
When are you going to talk about it? And even if you may not want to leave him, because I didn't leave my husband because he cheated on me. I didn't. I had the conversation. That's not what made me get a divorce. It wasn't the cheating. It wasn't the cheating that made me leave. That's another reason that made me question. It wasn't the cheating that made me leave, but it was the feeling of betrayal. It was the feeling that everything that I did for you, when I needed you, you weren't there for me. And then you put my whole financial situation in jeopardy. That'll make me leave your ass.
Yeah, these are healthy deal breakers.
Those are very healthy deal breakers.
Sometimes you have to walk away. Nobody's saying, we are not saying stay with a cheater, okay?
No.
We are saying your relationship should involve integrity. And if this person cannot provide integrity and honesty in your relationship, then you should leave it. Right, however, if you have an agreement and they respect that agreement and you can go past their sexuality because they respect you,
right,
be open to that.
Be open to that. Now, as far as I know, my ex-husband wasn't a serial cheater. As far as there was only one incident. So one incident, I'm willing to work through that. I was willing to work through that shit. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's... that I was willing to work through that.
And if you can't do it, walk away. For me, dishonesty is a deal breaker.
Do it, right. Dishonesty is a deal breaker.
It is a deal breaker for me.
And he was honest with me, at least to what it felt that he was being honest. Like I said, I may never know. He may have screwed her. As far as I know, he may have, and I'll never know. It wasn't physical, he said, but I may never know.
They tell you anything.
They'll tell you anything.
Despite the fact that you're literally looking at the writing on the wall, and they're like, that is not the same wall I'm looking at.
Yeah.
They will tell you anything.
It wasn't even that far. It wasn't even that far. Okay. So that's why I believed him.
So my question to you, we talked a little bit about shame. It's difficult to get people to open up when they feel like there's going to be shame around their sexuality. So that also creates a block in an open relationship when the goal is to be open and honest. Right. So I find myself having difficulty entering an honest conversation. It's first of all, it's frustrating for me to know that you're lying and continue to lie.
Yep.
That is why it's a deal breaker, because it triggers my anxiety.
Right.
And you're not about to send me into a spiral.
But at the same time, how am I tell you the truth if I know you're going to shame me
if you're
for it?
How? If you know. But at the same time, can your partner affect the way you feel about what you're doing? Why are you ashamed about what you're doing? That's really the question. Because
society makes you feel ashamed, because your partner makes you feel ashamed, and especially as women. And I'm going to say, as a woman, really coming into my own sexual identity, strength, pride. I'm not. I know I'm in Atlanta, so I got to be careful when I say pride. I'm not lesbian, but coming into my own sexual place, it's like a jungle out there.
It is.
It is. It's a lot of judgment. It is a lot.
You kind of have to do things and see if you like it.
But it's also you do. But again, there's a freedom that men are allowed that we're not.
That's very true. I know if I were to present myself in the manner that my partners have. Mm-hmm. No, actually, I'll even be specific. It was a situation where my actual last relationship, I was in a monogamous relationship. Well, I was monogamous for 7 years. I was not in a monogamous relationship. This person, however, maintained that they were trying to be monogamous. They cheated on me the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
The whole time we were together. And it got to a point where I was like, okay, well, I'm going to accept this because we have a mutually beneficial situation. Mm-hmm. So I was like, all right, this works. This doesn't work. This works. This doesn't work. Ultimately, when I broke up with this person, when I hit my end, I'm in. My end is my end, and it's hard to come back from it. So when I started phasing this person out of my life, he realized that I was a valuable friend.
Mm-hmm.
So we tried to maintain the friendship relationship, which was another version of a polyamorous relationship, even though we weren't having sex. But it was extremely difficult because of the distrust that was there.
Right.
This person would still lie, even though he didn't have to.
Right.
So that was the deal breaker in our relationship. It wasn't about the sex with other women, but the whole time I knew, and he would still gaslight me in my face and say, no, I'm not sleeping with other women. Mm-hmm. Why is it that you feel the need, and this is men and women, why would you feel the need to constantly lie to someone you care about to spare their feelings when you know that they know who you are and they have accepted who you are?
But see, that's the key. They may know who you are, but they haven't accepted who you are. And that's the thing right there. And so at the end of the day, we have to start, we cannot continue having relationships where we don't want to talk to the other person. We don't want to have a real conversation, and we don't want to see and acknowledge. And like you said, look at the patterns. Trust who that person is. Mm-hmm. We love, black people love Maya Angelou. First thing she says is, when people show you who they are, believe them. But we don't ever, we say it and we don't ever put it into practice.
We think we can change them or they will change. We think all of this. If you're going to engage in this person, this is how you have to engage with this person because this is who they are.
I know, listen, and I've done it. I'm guilty of it, right? But at one point, we have to come up out of that if we want to start to have authentic relationships that are fulfilling. And I think this is what it really means to be responsible for actually meeting your needs. You can't meet your needs in a relationship if you're not honest with yourself.
Exactly.
You can't be honest with your partner if you're not honest with yourself. That's all it is to it. And when your partner is honest with you, you can't be tripping and go off flying off the handle. They're not going to be, and then be mad when they lie. Of course they're going to lie to you because you trip. You go flipping nuts every time they tell you the truth. Mm-hmm. We got to be able to create that space for allow people to be authentic. You can't demand somebody be honest and authentic and then you trip and flip out when they are. Mm-hmm. That's why relationships fail. Mm-hmm. I guarantee you in these relationships, if we created that space, we would be so much more successful. We would be.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I wish that more people were comfortable in who they were because it's difficult to explain who you are to your partner, to a new person in a relationship. You're presenting this representative, and then when you show up, this person feels deceived.
That's why I try to just be who I am.
Just be who you are. Don't commit unless you're really trying to commit. There's a lot of people hop into committed situations with people that are not. Part of my healing in relationships came from, I used to believe I only dated cheaters. I only attracted cheaters. When I reflected myself, I realized I dated emotionally unavailable people, and I dated non-monogamous people.
Ooh, and how did you get there? Because you reflected on who?
Self. Who else? Who else? That was who I was attracting. I don't just date cheaters. No, I date people who are not able to commit.
Right. Because you already acknowledged, right?
And so,
right.
Just be accepting of people. If it doesn't work for you, you're a monogamous person, and you're dating somebody who is not a monogamous person. Get out. They're not going to change. That's who they are.
Right. For me, I recognize that I tend to be attracted to people who are broken, who are fractured. Have been through some heavy things because I've been through some heavy things. People don't always look at me and say that, realize that, but I've been through some things, and those are the people I can connect with. I can't connect with this square, Yeah,
think about why you're looking to connect with emotionally unavailable people.
Right.
That's really what you need to reflect on. Don't get mad at the cheaters. Don't be out here venting on Facebook about how men ain't shit. Don't do that. Reflect on you and figure out why you keep attracting the ain't shit men.
Right.
What is it about you? Why are you looking for them?
Right.
How are you finding them everywhere you go?
Right. But at the end of the day, getting what you need, getting your needs met, it still goes back to you. It goes back to you. I'm not coming down on anybody. I wish Cardi the best. I wish everybody the best. Beautiful baby girl.
Oh, she gorgeous. I'm so glad she put that picture up.
Yes, it was so nice.
That baby is gorgeous,
isn't she? So, but I hope you all enjoyed this conversation. And what we're going to do is we're going to be going live in a little bit on YouTube. So join us for the after the show conversation. That's when we really turn it up, y'all. And in the meantime, join us every week on OfficialDofD.com every Sunday, 3 p.m.
You all have a wonderful evening. It's been a pleasure. Once again, it's Ella Shea Farmer, Mad Queen Media. Thanks for listening.
This is Rebel Queen, y'all. Peace out. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed our show. Tune in every Sunday at 3 p.m. at OfficialDofD.com. Follow us on social media at OfficialDofD. Your dynamic, your dialogue. Come get some.